Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Gina, and in today's video we're going to talk all about Pinguiculas, also known as pings, also known as Butterworts. So pings or Pinguiculas or Butterworts, they're carnivorous plants, which means they eat meaty substance. So here is a look in case you've never heard of a Pinguicula. You don't even know what they look like. This is what a ping or Pinguicula looks like. And here's an example of another of what it looks like. So as you can see, they are very adorable, very cute, which is probably why I was drawn to them in the first place. They very much remind me of succulents, like little rosettes, little echeverias, but dare I say even better. Yeah, and maybe even a little bit easier care, maybe. Yeah, they are fabulous little plants, and we're gonna talk all about them today. So I'm gonna tell you how I care for them. I have been keeping them for about 2 years now. So I want to share with you my experience, like what I do, plus also just a little bit of general information that I pulled off the internet. Yeah, so that is the plan. And we're also going to pot up some new Pinguiculas. So back, was it last year? End of 2024, I did a plants and plans video and included a wish list, which I didn't really have too much on my wish list, but one of the possibilities on that wish list of plants that I would add to my collection this year would be Pinguiculas. And well, here we are, only 3 weeks into the new year, and I've added Pinguiculas to my collection, which just happens to be right here. Right here. So we're going to pot those up together. I'll show you how to do it. So this video should encompass everything you need to know about Pinguiculas. That is the plan. So first off, I thought I would just give you a little bit of like general information about Butterworts, Pinguiculas. I gotta pick. Am I gonna call them pings, Pinguiculas, or Butterworts? I think from here on out, I'm gonna try and just stick with pings. So you know I'm talking about Pinguiculas, Butterworts when I just say pings. All right, so there are two different styles of pings. So there's the pings that come from Mexico, and then there's the pings that they're called bog butterworts, I believe, and they come from wetter environments. So, and they can be found in the United States, and there's other places, but they are found in the United States. And so the difference between the two, the Mexican and the bog, is that the Mexican varieties, since they come from a dry climate, they're fine with drying out for a few days. So if you forget to water your ping and the soil is dry, they're going to be okay, as long as it's just like 3 or 4 days. Now with the bog style, they never want to dry out. They want that boggy, marshy conditions. So you do have to be a little bit more careful with those. So as far as I know, there's just those two styles of Butterworts. So as I said earlier, I have been keeping Pinguiculas for probably 2 years, maybe over 2 years, 2.5 years. And so I keep mine, I predominantly have Mexican. I don't think I have any bog style. As far as I know, they're entirely, all of them are the Mexican variety. So I keep mine in a few different like containers, conditions. So first off, so these, okay, here's 2 examples right here. So these guys are kept in self-watering containers, and it has a wick. You can see the wick there. This reservoir here is filled with water. That is a great, this has been my favorite way to keep Pinguiculas. I just love the way it looks. I think it looks so cute. And also on the top, I've placed some moss that I grew, and just kind of stuck it on the top. And so far so good. It's not dying off, and I can see green. I can see it's growing, so that's kind of fun. That's my new thing, is just putting the moss around. So it doesn't just look like wet, ugly soil around the beautiful little ping. It actually looks kind of pretty. It's more plants with that moss. So I keep this style. I do this. And then also I have like a pink tray, and I'll include some video here. I have these pink trays that I have potted up a bunch of Pinguiculas just in regular drainage pots, and I set them in the trays. And then I try to be sure to not let that tray ever empty out. Sometimes it does, but because they are the Mexican variety, it's okay. They can dry out for a little bit. So that's kind of similar to this. The only difference is that the tray is exposed, so that water does evaporate. So that is why I prefer this style, because it doesn't evaporate. The water in the reservoir doesn't evaporate. Now the third way I keep Pinguiculas is in an actual terrarium. So I have an aquarium, a fish tank aquarium. I think it's like a 20-gallon fish tank aquarium, and it's completely enclosed. And there's a bunch of Pinguiculas in there, and some of them are currently blooming, which is fun. Another fun thing about Pinguiculas, they bloom. And that container, in that aquarium, in that terrarium, they have been doing great. And we're going to talk about humidity with these guys. So that I'm going to just leave it at that there. So anyway, in the terrarium, it stays very moist. It's an easy way to keep Pinguiculas. Let's just put it that way. Very easy. Very low maintenance. All right. Now, what should we talk about next? Oh, I remembered. Okay, so I'm going to try it's kind of a new way. It's not really. It's all basically, it's the same concept. But a few weeks ago, I was on Etsy, my favorite place for plants and planty things. So I was on there, and somehow, I don't know if I was searching for pings, like new pings, I must have been. And in that search, a Pinguicula planter popped up, which instantly caught my eye, and my mind. But so, and I clicked on it, and it was pink. And so it was handmade pottery, which I love handmade pottery. Absolutely love it. So, okay, so I stuck it in my cart, and they're kind of expensive. So I didn't want to impulse buy this pot. It was like $55 or something like that. So I stuck it in my cart so I could think about it. And if a few days later I still decided I wanted to get it, then I would get it. Well, unfortunately, during that time, that pot sold out. So I went, I was checking, I looked at what the other pots that they had available, and I did find another one that I liked. So I ended up buying it. And this is it right here. So you see, it is handmade pottery. And this one, it might be a little difficult to see, but it does have some pink in it. But then it also has like a bunch of other colors in it. It has blues and greens and browns. And it's a nice textured. So obviously I purchased it. And so this is the reservoir here. Kind of like my pink trays, except this is the reservoir here. And then you plant into the center of it. So this is going to be another instance where you're going to get more evaporation, because this is exposed to the air, as opposed to like this style, which is contained. You don't get the evaporation with this, but this is really pretty. It's really pretty. So Yeah, we're gonna try this style. So that'll be a fourth style of keeping Pinguiculas in my collection. So we're gonna pot some pings up together into this. Yeah, so that should be exciting. All right, so we might as well, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm gonna move these two cuties out of the way here. Move them down here. We're gonna just go ahead and start potting this up, and we'll talk more about Pinguiculas while we do that. So, what I use, I do pot them up in soil, and the soil I'm going to use, it's a combination of perlite, peat moss, and vermiculite. So it is 60% perlite, 20% peat moss, and 20% of the vermiculite. And I have it already, oops, we came unsnapped. I have it already mixed up. Actually, this is, this mix, I have made it myself before. I'm afraid I'm gonna dump these over. I don't know. I'm gonna move these over here just to be extra safe. I don't wanna dump those over. That would be a disaster. Okay. So I have made my own soil before, but this actually, I purchased this. This came from the same place as where I get my Pinguiculas from. And I'll put links in the description for all this stuff, like for where I picked up this beautiful planter and where I get my pings from, both Etsy. It'll be in the description for you in case you want to check them out yourself. So as I said, I have made my own before, but I just purchased this from this Pinguicula seller, so it's just easier. So one of the big things with, this is my mixing container, and I'm not sure exactly how much I'm gonna need. It's not very deep. I don't know if you can see that, but it's not very deep. It's only like to here, from here to here. That's how deep it is. What is that, like an inch and a half? I don't know. It's not very deep. So I'm not gonna need that much soil, so I'm gonna just dump some of this into this container here. Try to avoid getting too much dust because it will make me cough because it has the perlite in it, which always makes me cough. All right, so the big thing with Pinguiculas is you need to use distilled water. So, and if you don't have distilled water, rainwater is okay. I can see the dust floating. Rainwater is okay, or you can also use, did I write that down? Maybe I didn't write that down. You can use like reverse osmosis water, filtered water. That is good too. I think I read you want it below 10 parts per million of TDS, total dissolved solids, something like that, because the minerals, I guess, in the water can really hurt the pings over time. So I stick with, this is distilled water, brand new jug, brand new gallon, and I am going to, so this soil is so dry, but you saw the dust. I'm going to add some distilled water to this to get it moist. We need even more. Oh, FedEx is here. My husband is expecting a FedEx, which has to be signed for. And he's in the shower right now. So I'm gonna have to pause here for a second and sign for this package. All right, so also the seller of these pots, sorry I'm distracted. Let me pause and we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So as I was saying, the seller of these pots suggested, because there's drainage holes at the bottom, there's 4 there at the bottom, they suggested putting like sphagnum moss at the bottom so that the soil that you put in there doesn't like escape into the reservoir. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. So I have a little bit of moss here, which I need to wet. I guess I'll just do it in my hands here. Yeah. We'll just wet it. Not ideal, not an ideal way to do this, but I just don't have a container with me, so this actually works. And Nikki's here. You may eventually see him. He may pop his head up, or he may not. I don't know. I think they have come out because they heard me talk. They heard a stranger. They heard the FedEx guy. Okay, so we're just gonna put this at the bottom, just a little bit, covering the holes. And then they also said that when you do that, it helps wick in the moisture, wick in the water into that it gets into your soil. Which makes sense. That makes sense because sphagnum moss does hold a lot of moisture. Can hold a lot of, okay, so there is what it looks like. Just a little bit of sphagnum moss at the bottom. And now, here is our moistened soil, moistened with distilled water. And we're just gonna, hopefully you can see that okay, we're just gonna dump that in. Looks like I got a good amount. Actually, it looks like I got the perfect amount. Yeah, how about that? How about that? Pretty good. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of flatten that out there. Looks good. Okay, I'm gonna pull this little twig out. We don't need that little twig. And next, we need our Pinguiculas. So I have 2 new ones. They arrived yesterday. They arrived late yesterday, so I decided to wait till the morning, the next morning, to do this. But they look good. When I opened them up last night, they looked really good. So, and one is flowering, or it was last night when I opened it up, which was really fun. That was fun to see. So the first one is called Pinguicula lowiana. This is the Pinguicula lowiana. So let's take a look. Let's take a look together. Let me get in closer to you. And ooh, it's a pretty big one. Nice color on it. Look how beautiful. Let's see if we can adjust our lighting here so you can see. Look how beautiful they are. So I don't think I mentioned, did I mention Pinguiculas, pings, they are carnivorous plants. So if you touch them, they can feel a little bit sticky unless they're in dormancy. And at that point, they have less stickiness and probably dormancy would be in the winter time, which is what we are right now. But when I'm touching it, it doesn't feel super sticky. So the stickiness is to attract bugs because they're carnivorous. They want to eat that meat. And it probably gives off a scent or a hormone or something that the bugs are attracted to, and that's how they feed. But now I've had people, when I've showed my pings in the past, I've had people say, well, I don't have any fungus gnats. How can I still keep a Pinguicula? And the answer is yes. So one other way that you can feed your Pinguiculas is with and this is what I did in the beginning, you can feed them with fish flake food. Just drop a little bit of fish flake food on the leaves, and that dissolves, and they eat that, which back when I first did that, I had a fish tank, I had fish food on hand, so that's what I did. But then And they did okay, I think. Plus, I've always had fungus gnats. Like right now, I'm in a phase right now where there's not really many fungus gnats, but it kind of, you know, there's like cycles with that. So they're not really catching fungus gnats. A few are catching fungus gnats. There's still always a few floating around, but anyway, so now it was recommended to me by Duncan, who keeps carnivorous plants. He suggested going with like, it's called, trouble, trouble. I guess Nikki wanted that spot. He suggested using the Schultz, and I'll put a picture up here of the Schultz, what it looks like. It's Schultz liquid fertilizer. And you add that to distilled water and you just spray your plants. So that is what I've been doing. And since I've done that, I've noticed a huge difference in the Pinguiculas. They really, really do so much better that way. And I spray like every 2 to 3 weeks. When I looked it up, it said every 3 to 4 weeks, but I go like every 2 to 3 weeks, and they're doing great. Like, yeah, they're doing fantastic with that. And I brought my spray. I just have a little bottle here. You can see it's getting low, but this is distilled water. And what you do is a gallon of distilled water, you add a 1/4 teaspoon of the Schultz Cactus fertilizer, see that? And that's it, 1/4 teaspoon to a gallon of distilled water. All right, let's get this potted. Let's get this potted up. So I am just going to put a little indentation, just make a little indentation here in the top of the soil. So what it looks like at the bottom, we'll see like, yeah, there's some roots under there. See the roots? And I am just going, was that long enough? Maybe that wasn't long enough. Can you see those roots? There's some roots there. I am just going to plop them in this plant into that indentation. And that's it. That's all. That's it. Kind of try to push that soil up to those roots, and those roots will, you know, they'll grow into that soil. They have a very shallow root system, which is interesting, which is why this shallow container here is fine. It's fine for them because they really don't root into the whole thing. Very shallow roots on these guys. Okay, so hopefully I will not forget that this is the Pinguicula lawiana. Probably not. So we have one potted. So pretty, right? All right, so the next one we're doing, this is the there's only 2. Although they did give me 2 of this one, of this type. Maybe because they're smaller, but actually that'll look really cute. Like there'll be 3 in here. So this is the Pinguicula rotundiflora. Kind of like Hoya rotundiflora. That's funny how like different genuses will share a name. So Pinguicula rotundiflora, and then there's some extra there, which I'm not going to pronounce. Yeah, Nuevo Leon. I can pronounce that. So that is what we are looking at here. That is what is in, this is the one that was flowering when I looked at it last night, when I peeked in there. So let's see. Yeah, it still has a little flower. Most of the flowers, it seems, on these guys are purple. So, ooh, gosh, it's got like, it's tiny. You see that? So in addition to having the one little rosette here, there's another little rosette here also. All right, these are way more delicate than the last one. So I am going, let me make a little bit of indentation here. One there, one there. I'm just gonna plop these right in. So cute. Definitely this one feels more delicate than that big one. All right, those are in. There's a little, Oh, that's a flower. That one's flowering too, but I think it's maybe done flowering, maybe? I don't know. All right, so there they are. And that's basically it. So the soil was pre-moistened, so I'm not gonna water these. That's a good way to kill your pinguiculas. Getting water on the leaves. It can rot them. It can happen, trust me. So the soil is pre-moistened, and then I will fill this reservoir with distilled water. I'll probably fill it pretty close to the top because it can evaporate. But also, before we do that, we are not done yet because I also want to put some moss in here. I think I mentioned that I grow moss around it. So this is some moss I picked up on Etsy, which I have been growing in this container. So I'm just going to pull some of this moss off of this and just kind of place it around those plants, and it will grow in, and it should look really, really pretty. I have a couple of different, it looks like a couple of different types of moss here that are growing in here. So I'm just gonna kind of push it into there. And I'm not gonna fill the whole thing because that moss will grow. I wish you could see this easier. It just really kind of dresses it up. It's like a top dressing, kind of like how I top dress my succulents. Only I am top dressing with some moss. And everything looks better with a top dressing, in my opinion. Well, there might not be room for any more. That might be, yeah, I think that's going to be it. That is all I'm going to be able to fit in there. So, as you can see, hopefully you can see, it just kind of pretties it up even more. And I was thinking, although there may not be any room, gosh, that looks so pretty. I will bring you in closer to look at this. Okay, so before we do that, before I bring you in closer to look at that, let's talk some more care. So temperature, okay, temperature for these guys. Oh, let me cover my moss back up so it doesn't dry out. Temperature on these guys, temperature 55 degrees Fahrenheit to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. They also do okay like in the 90s as long as they're not sitting in sun and their soil is staying moist. Yeah, and like humidity, the Mexican variety do great. Maybe that's why they do so well for me, because I live in such a dry climate. It's very dry here in Colorado, so that could be part of why I have good success with them. But let me move this out of the way. I think we are done. I think we are done with that. So now, okay, so I said that I keep Pinguiculas in a terrarium, which is super high humidity. It's probably close to 100% humidity in there. They don't need it, but for some reason, they do perfectly fine in that terrarium. And it says they need good air circulation. Well, there is zero air circulation in that terrarium, except for when I, open it up to spray them or to pour some water into that terrarium. There is no circulation, so, that's my experience. It's been fine. The reason that you want air circulation is so that the pings don't rot or have fungal issues, but it has not been an issue for me, so I don't know. Now I will say, when I was keeping them in my grow tent for a little bit. The ones in the pink tray were living in the grow tent, and I felt like they weren't doing so great in there. So, and I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know, I wasn't letting them dry out. I don't know. I don't know. But when I brought them out of the grow tent and I put them just on my shelf, they did so much better. So I don't know. Don't know. It's interesting. I guess I don't know. It's just interesting. I guess you just have to try it for yourself. Just try it for yourself, see what your experience is, and yeah. So that's humidity. We talked about fertilizer, feeding. As far as lighting, so these guys, all of mine are kept under grow lights, artificial light, and they do fabulously with that. You can keep them outside, like your Mexican butterworts, you can keep them outside. You want to keep them in a shaded location. You don't want them to get direct sunlight. And yeah, just no direct like midday sun. They can get morning or afternoon sun, but not midday super intense sunlight. What else? Let's see. So you can put them in bright windows, keep them in a bright window or under grow lights. And I do the grow lights. So temperature we did, humidity, propagating. They are so easy to propagate. So you can propagate them from just leaves, like pull a leaf off, stick it right on the soil, and it will grow a whole new plant for you. I have done that. Yeah, they're just such fun little gems. If you have been thinking about getting yourself some Pinguiculas, I highly recommend it. I think you will very much enjoy keeping them. The only time I lost a ping was way back in the beginning when I first started keeping them. And I think it was because they weren't getting enough food. I was doing the fish flake food, and I just think it wasn't enough. And they were tiny little pings. They were very young, tiny little pings, and I think it just wasn't. They weren't getting enough. And yeah. So, gosh, is that everything? Well, let's fill this up. Let's fill this reservoir up with some water, actually. Before I do that, a little bit of perlite has gotten into that reservoir. We'll just fill it up with our distilled water. I probably should have waited until I put it where it's going to be living. And you know what? Let's do that. Let's move to, I'm going to take this to where my other Pinguiculas are, and we'll go place it on the shelf, and we'll look at it together over there. All right, so here is where I set it, right there. Look how pretty. Ignore my messy, my messy shelves. That's going to be a video, I think, coming up, cleaning these shelves. So there you see, and you can kind of see it's running a little bit dry. I need to clean it up, clean out. Because the soil does get drained into the reservoir here. It does get a little messy. I need to clean it out. So these are not all Pinguiculas here. There's some Droseras here, a few different types, but this is one system. One system I have of doing it. And then here is our new one. And let me move over here, and I think it looks really, really pretty. I thought about putting a little crystal on there. I'm not sure if there's space. Let me see, hang on. All right, so I stuck a little rose quartz moon crystal on there, moon shaped, right there. Rose quartz does fine in getting wet, like with moisture. It does perfectly fine for it, and I think it looks cute. Ideally, I would put it where one of those little moss clumps were, but I'd rather have that moss growing in there. So it's between the moss and one of those little pings, and I think it looks nice. It looks nice. By the way, I am going to have, the plan is to have some of those little moon crystals in my plant shop. That'll be one of, just a little sneak peek of something that will be in there. It's just, looks so cute on a pot, having some little crystals in there. So that is our new little setup. hopefully it will thrive. All right, well, I think that is going to do it. I'm pretty sure I covered everything. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will answer them for you. I should have the answer for you. I mean, I've been keeping these guys for couple years, almost 3 years, so I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what they like, what they need. So again, if you've had an interest in Pinguiculas, but you've been a little bit hesitant to like try it, I absolutely 100% recommend it. They're super easy plants and they're so enjoyable, and you know, they're adorable, they flower, they're functional in that they will catch your fungus gnats. They're not going to eradicate your fungus gnat infestation if you have one, but they will certainly help at least a little bit. So that is going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed learning about Pinguiculas. If you did, leave me a green heart in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, that's going to do it. So thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great week. Bye.